radically disrupting various systems of oppression requires rhizomatic connections with people that you may not have even thought about meeting. I want to talk about the encounter. The encounter is important because it allows us to move beyond ourselves. The encounter that is outside of institutional gridlock, outside of the traditional reactionary paranoid paradigm, the one which is not based on a map, an encounter without a cartography. These encounters can be dangerous, they can be deadly, they can be enlightening, they can be life-saving. And in this next series that I'm doing, continuing to obviously advocate for the release of every single IPP prisoner that's still sitting and languishing in UK prison, I'm also now, since I'm situated in the place of Warsaw, going to be doing queer dispatches from the city. So I'm meeting with people who are artists, owners of clubs, owners of pubs, people who are writers, journalists, interviewing them, getting a general sense of the feel on the ground. I've recently met with and wrote an article you can read about on my website, an amazing and talented LGBT filmmaker who did a very important project on the need for political and social reform. One troubling feature that I keep noticing, however, is that there are recurring themes when I interview people who are political or in drag or doing political drag, performance art, burlesque, around the fact that at least the gay male community here, and it's interesting, I spoke with a very fabulous and very erudite burlesque and queer drag performer tonight, or yet today. She said, and the filmmaker, Bart, as well, has mentioned that there is a great deal of internalized homophobia here, on a level that they didn't see or haven't seen anywhere else in Europe, and I can see why. It's a very hostile environment because of the Catholic Church. And I want to simply be a space where people can come to me. I'm simply going to be processing this, putting it into theory, putting it into English media, and hopefully we can get some of this stuff off the ground. I want to go to places and meet people on the ground here in Warsaw and really have a discussion about the way in which gender and sexuality is lived and experienced in this city and in this country and in this region of the world, because it's fascinating to me. As I prepare also with my book, which is on prisons and penology and power, and how we are constantly reified, calcified into a system of oppression. The oppressive mechanism is a pleasurable mechanism as well, and this is something that we have to look at, and why we identify with that which oppresses us. And what is oppression? I think this is another question that's quite important. Now, someone may say, obviously, oppression is obvious to the person who experiences it. And I can tell you that it's not. As someone who's been in prison, as someone who's come out, as someone who's been abandoned by my family, as someone who's gone through multiple fights with multiple different types of state and corporate entities in the labor movement and in my personal life, organizing on behalf of homeless people, on behalf of myself as a homeless person, and on behalf of the broader queer social justice movements. The person that I interviewed today, who I'm going to be seeing him at rehearsal, he said something very interesting about the difference between gay and queer. That there is this sort of radical step, and he does this, which it reminded me of Jose Esteban Munoz's the work, Disidentifications, Queers of Color, and a Performance of Politics. And I was thinking about Vaginal Davis, the Mexican black drag performer who did punk in Los Angeles and later moved to Berlin, and the way in which she took mainstream kitsch and made it revolutionary and profound. And this is what this performer does. I'm going to put his name at the bottom. You will find out more about him from me in the future. And in the dispatches, which will include various profiles of people who are involved in the work here. So, as the rhizome grows, let us continue the intervention into a space, a time, a place, perhaps a gathering, where these types of unchallenged, so-called neutral institutions of family and time and place and space are questioned.